Hey, it's Dorleen. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm working on a wooden board that I'm going to be creating a spring sign for using Cricut Design Space. So instead of painting this, I just decided to use a piece of white vinyl to cover it, and it just gives it a smooth surface. I just use regular vinyl. I want to say it's even removable. Just a cheap vinyl like I got at the Dollar Tree, and I also got the board from the Dollar Tree. So I just put it straight on there. I didn't bother to cut it into a circle. I just thought I'd put it on, smooth it out, and then I used an X-Acto knife and a self-healing mat to just cut the trim off, and you'll see me do that right now. Now there were a couple of spots where it was a little raggedy, but I just went over it again and then just cut it out. Super simple. I just thought that was an easier way, and also no wait time. And once I did that, I grabbed my crocodile to cut the circles out so I can tie the twine back on once I was done decorating everything. And you'll see me pull that thing out. Now technically I didn't really need to use the crocodile because it really was just the very thin piece of vinyl that I was cutting, but because the wood was a little thick, I know I can get through it all with that crocodile. I love that tool. That was probably a really good investment. If you bought one of those years ago, it was a good investment. So once I did that, I went over to Design Space. I put a basic circle, 12 inches, and then I changed it into guide so it wouldn't cut out when I was done. But what I knew I wanted to do was to add like a little moon shape, I guess, on the bottom of that. So I did another circle, exact same size, and then I just wanted that kind of moon shape. So I pulled up another shape of a rectangle and just moved it around until I got what I thought the cut area that I wanted, and just sliced that off. And you see how it's just a little bit smaller, or like moon shape, to the actual 12-inch circle. So I centered that all on there. Now I had already did a search for the Hello Spring and also that mason jar, because I've been wanting to do like 3D flower decoration on a board, and that was my intent here. So once I realized the sizes of what I was going to do, because at first I thought maybe butterflies, changed my mind. I really wanted to work on those flowers. So I separated that Hello Spring, because that is one piece, so that the spring would be on the bottom and also separate, so I could move the size around. And the hello, I made it a little bit larger. I also ended up using a completely different jar because I realized I wanted some greenery or some stems. So I don't show it on the video, but I did go back into the search and looked up jars. I might have just said floral arrangements in jars or something like that, and a whole bunch of them came up, and so I found one that I really liked. But what I wanted to do in that bottom section too is, originally I thought I was going to use a glitter vinyl, so I wanted to cut out that word spring. I used the offset button because I wanted it more like a shadow, and then I cut that out of the bottom little moon, and then I kept the original word spring because I'm going to place that within the shadow. It'll make sense as you're watching me do this. So as I told you, I originally thought I was going to use a glitter cardstock, and I realized I didn't have pink like I wanted. So I remembered that I had this really pretty pattern paper or pattern vinyl that I bought so long ago and I've never used, but look at how beautiful those spring colors are. So I went ahead and used that. So I really didn't need to do the offset after all, but it worked out. I love the way it turned out. So this took me a little bit to figure out the spacing, and it wasn't so much that I couldn't figure out how to put it on the round, but I needed to make sure that it was a straight horizontal line. So the holes up at the top needed to match or to be lined up, and then blah, 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 right? So that took me a minute, and then the transfer tape got stuck, and anyhow, that was probably the hardest part about the whole project, but and it really wasn't that hard. But I used some parchment paper and just some strength and hope that it didn't fill up everything else, and it didn't. It worked out fine. So this is what I was talking about. I don't know if you can even see that offset in the middle of that pattern paper where it says spring. And then I cut out the word in black, and I'm just going to center it in the middle of that offset, so it really stands out, which to me looks better than if I would have just put the word spring straight onto the pattern paper. And I hope you agree, but it gives it a little bit of a shadow, and separates it from the pattern because it's the white and then the black right there. But using parchment paper really does help. So basically you put the image on the parchment paper with just like a sliver open, and that sliver that has the adhesive is what you make sure it's all lined up, because you can see through the parchment paper, so you make sure everything's all lined up before you actually put it on. But look at it, isn't that so pretty? And I tried to do the same thing with the word hello. And also with, no, actually with hello, I decided to wing it. And I thought, I don't need that parchment paper. It's an easy word. I did use my T-square ruler because I wanted to make sure that the hello was, like I said, even and straight-ish. I try to make everything straight. And I just eyeballed it. Now, it may be off a hair, but I think it's pretty straight. And I just used my scraper to scrape that right on there. And I will tell you, too, is the transfer tape, I reuse my transfer tape as much as I can, like 2 or 3 times. It actually, to me, works out better after you've used it a few times because it's not as sticky. And I feel like you get a little bit more, definitely not wiggle room, but just... if you do happen to make a mistake, like you drop it down and you're like, oh my gosh, and you have to pull it up, it gives you a little bit of an easier way to do that without like ruining your whole project. But like I said, I do it at least 2 or 3 times before I throw it away. Sometimes I end up snipping things because if it's rounded surface, blah, blah, blah. Those obviously I'll just throw away because it's too many like slivers of pieces I don't need. But a large piece, because I use one big piece for this, and the one piece that I use for that, I'm calling it the moon, the pattern paper, that piece of transfer tape is what I use for everything else. So you can see right here that my jar is completely different than the one that I showed you earlier on Design Space. Because like I talked about, I wanted those sprigs and the leaves and things because I didn't want to add too much paper. Now there are some flowers on this sprig, but I really tried hard to cover them with the paper flowers that I either rolled or created with Design Space. I didn't show that when I rolled the flowers because I forgot to film it, but I may have to do another video on that. So this was the first time that I ever worked on those daisies. I gotta tell you, they are beautiful. I love it. Now these are only about, I mean, they might be like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches in diameter. They're pretty small, but no, I guess they're probably closer to 1.5 inches to 2 inches, but they're pretty small. But it was still really easy to put together. They were just layers, and I loved them. I can't wait to make something more with those. But it took me a little bit to figure out where I wanted the flowers. And once I did, I just kind of tucked them in and put them down. I just used some tacky glue. I did end up using my glue gun later once I knew for sure that's where I wanted it. And then I went ahead and tied down that, or put back on that twine that was already part of the board. I'm telling you, for $1.25, the Dollar Tree, it's such a good deal. And these are, it's fairly thin. It's obviously not something that you're going to treasure forever, but it's super cute. I knew I needed to add some kind of bow. I am the world's worst bow tire. So I just thought I'd make what they call like a messy bow. And I just grabbed a whole bunch of scraps of ribbon that I have shoved in this one big jar. I think it used to be a pickle jar or something. But, and I just, gather them all together, try to make like X's, the different bows. And these are all just scraps. And then I used another piece of ribbon to tie that bow in the middle and cinch it. And then from there, I just, like you could see me here, I'm cutting off the ends, trying to make it a little pretty. That pink twine, I tied knots to the bottom. But isn't that so pretty? I hope you like this. And if you do, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you hit subscribe. I do at least 2 videos a week. One's always scrapbooking, and the other is whatever it is I'm creating in the command center, which in this case happens to be this sign. Thanks for watching. Bye.